Hey, hey, it's Courtney. I just had a panic attack because it was telling me my connection was bad and I wasn't going to be able to talk, but I think everything's fine. Welcome to my live online workshop. My name's Courtney and I am the founder of The Highly Sensitive Badass. And I just realized I'm looking at the wrong side of the phone for the camera. But I am the founder of The Highly Sensitive Badass, and it's a blog. I do coaching programs, and I just love connecting with other sensitive women because my story, I think, has been one that I really want to share and reach so many sensitive women because it's really where my heart lies. And I feel like this is my mission in life, is to help sensitive women become empowered and just live in their brilliance. And so welcome. And I see people are starting to show up. So that's awesome. I'm going to talk for a little while to give people time to get online. And then I'll reintroduce myself again. So I think we have about like 66 people registered to watch this video, and I'm so excited by that. And I'm really thrilled to be here and share this with you. And so, hey, Sherelle, so I'm seeing people pop up. So as you pop up, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell me where you're from and start sharing a little bit with me about where you came from and why you came. And what I'll start doing, hey, sweetie. So what I'm going to start doing is trying not to get too distracted by all the comments that are going to pop up on here. But the way that I would love for this to work is as I say something that you kind of resonate with, hit the like or love button, or like the haha button if you think it's funny. But just start sharing yourself with me a little bit. And at the end, we'll have time for more questions. But Sherelle, why don't you share, since we're still building our audience here. Baltimore is in the building. Woohoo! So excited. Anyone else on the call? I see I have 4 people so far here. So who else is with us today? I would love to hear from you. Don't be shy. I'm not shy. Well, I am shy, and this isn't easy for me to do all the time. So share with me too. Make me feel like I'm not the only one here. That would be awesome. So just comment. All right, don't comment or take your time. I'll keep looking back. It's okay. So what I'll do is, Lauren, hey, from Norton, Mass. Awesome. Hey, Lauren, welcome. Thanks for saying hi. Okay, well, I'll just keep talking. As people pop in, I'll say hello. And thank you for my first like. Okay, so as we're going to do this, I am going to start talking a little bit about why I wanted to do this workshop. And then we'll kind of dig into the nitty gritty. And I hope you stay tuned to the end because I have a free online Facebook thingy challenge coming up next week. And I want to invite everyone to join me for that. So stay to the end if you can, so that I can have the time to present that to you. So the first thing I wanted to do is tell you a little bit more about my story and why I'm here and why I really feel called to share this information with everyone. So as a kid growing up, I felt, I didn't know how I felt, but I felt like I just knew there were certain things about me that felt like, is this supposed to be this way? And I started questioning myself at a really young age. I remember when I was really little having terrible anxiety creep in. Around the age of 5 is when I can start remembering that started creeping into my life. Really bad anxiety. I just somehow never felt fully comfortable in my life. I didn't have a hard life. Like, I was very blessed that, you know, I didn't come from a very challenging background, but I somehow never really felt like I was safe, or it's just something felt really ungrounded for me. And I felt things very deeply. I was diagnosed with ADHD at like this ridiculous a young age of 3 days old. I think they were kind of looking for a reason to explain my crying and I would cry a lot, but I was also really happy a lot. And I was apparently a very difficult child just simply because they couldn't figure me out. So it kind of started, I heard these stories when I was younger about what a difficult child that I was. And I was then diagnosed with ADHD growing up. I had the anxiety thing going on, and it was really a challenge for me. I had a hard time making friends. I felt like I was very disconnected from other kids. I didn't really feel like I was like them in some way. And at the time, I couldn't explain that feeling really. And today, I kind of struggle with that. But I definitely felt like I was somehow different from the other kids growing up. And then and I also noticed that I started carrying around a deep sadness with me. This kind of crept in more in my, I was more aware of that in my teenage years. Well, my teenage years, I really felt like I was one big feeling, like all my feelings were just going crazy all the time. And I felt a lot of anger, I felt a lot of sadness, and I was like the epitome of really the moody teenager. I loved spending time by myself. I had my headphones like permanently glued into my ears, constantly listening to music. I was really drawn to beauty. I was really drawn to music and anything artistic I loved. And I learned again that I didn't like big groups of people. I learned that I really did better with just a few really close friendships. And but I was also really struggling with a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety at that time. So I really struggled as a teenager, but at the same time, I had really developed a lot of good coping mechanisms for myself, things that really made me feel good, and I was doing those very regularly, and I had no issue with putting myself first at that age. Teenagers don't have that issue, really, do they, of putting themselves first? But as time went on, and I became a grown up, and I got married, and I had kids was really when things fell apart for me, because I put all my self-care out the window, and I was overwhelmed by having my first child. It was just an intense first year of my son's life. That was a really hard time for me. But then I started putting away anything that really gave me a sense of who I was. And I started giving, and my mantra became family comes first. And I just stopped taking care of myself, and I completely abandoned anything I loved to do. I put pleasure, like what pleasure? No. I'm a mom now, and I have to take care of my kids. And so I put all this stuff on the back burner, and my life really started to suffer. I became desperately unhappy. My depression and anxiety were at an all-time high. I was feeling really alone and isolated. And as a stay-at-home mom, like as someone who wasn't great at making friends, I felt doubly alone. And I really only had my husband and my kids. And my husband and I weren't really getting along all that well either, because I was miserable. And so when I heard the term the highly sensitive person, I think I was around 35 years old, and it was like this huge light bulb went off for me. And I was just so thrilled and excited that I found something that explained me. And I finally realized that I wasn't alone, and that I wasn't the only person on the planet, and that there were 15 to 20% of us who felt the same way, and who basically had a framework, because it's a trait. And it helped me put so much in perspective. And I'll tell you a little bit more about my story later, about how I went from feeling like my life was very much out of control, and that I was struggling and life was just tough, and how I went to feeling really just empowered as a sensitive person, because it was a journey. It did not happen overnight, and there were a bunch of little tools that I put in place to help me get there. But that's really what I want to share with you. And because I went from feeling like such a mess to feeling like I can actually show up as myself in the world, that is a huge transformation. And I know how deep my suffering was, and I'm not free of suffering, just so you know. I still have my hard days, but it has become so much better, and I really want to share that with other people in case that story resonates with anybody else. So let me just scroll down on my computer to see if I can even see myself right now as a live video. I don't even know if I can. Okay, hopefully this is working. I know some of you are on with me. Anyway, so I wanted to, first of all, to walk you through the highly sensitive traits and explain what they are, because I think that it's really important as we go through this that you learn. Sorry, I'm just going to check this. I'm getting distracted by my computer feed. Wow. Anyway, I think it's important to go over these traits, because as a sensitive person, we all can relate to certain things. And so there are about 23 things on this test. And if you resonate with any of them, I want you to hit the like button or the heart button, the love button, if this is you. And the importance of doing this is to also realize that there are other people like you out there. And we tend to feel so isolated, alone. And if you're like me, I spent most of my life up until now feeling like something was wrong with me. So this really helps get rid of that potential feeling that you may have of being separate, alone, and like something's wrong with you. So the first thing I want to say is, so when you feel like this is you, click the yes button. And the first thing is, I seem to be aware of subtleties in my environment. And that is the first one. I'm just going to see if I'm still on. I'm not sure if this is broadcasting. Hopefully it is. Let's see. Yes, I think it is. Okay. All right. So I seem to be aware of subtleties in my environment. Other people's moods affect me. I'm going to raise my hand for all of these except one, so I'll just keep my hand raised. I tend to be very sensitive to pain. I find myself needing to withdraw during busy days into a bed or a darkened room or any place where I can have some privacy and relief from stimulation. Yay, I see some like buttons. I'm particularly sensitive to the effects of caffeine, and that's where I'm putting my hand down. And then I'm easily overwhelmed by things like bright lights or strong smells, sirens. I have a rich, complex inner life. I'm made uncomfortable by loud noises, which we talked about already with sirens and that kind of thing. I'm deeply moved by the arts or music. I'm conscientious. I startle easily. I get rattled when I have a lot to do in a short amount of time. Anne says yes. When people are uncomfortable in a physical environment, I tend to know what needs to be done to make it more comfortable, like changing the lighting or maybe the seating, maybe the temperature of the room. This is so me. Oh my God. I get annoyed when people try to get me to do too many things at once. And I try hard to avoid making mistakes or forgetting things. I make it a point to avoid violent movies or TV shows. Yes to almost everything, Anne says. Yes. I become unpleasantly aroused when a lot is going on around me. Like right now, there's construction on my neighbor's house next door. I'm like totally distracted by that. Being very hungry creates a strong reaction in me, disrupting my concentration or mood. Yes. Changes in my life shake me up. I notice and enjoy delicate or fine sense, tastes, sounds, works of art. I make it a high priority to arrange my life to avoid upsetting or overwhelming situations. When I must compete or be observed while performing a task, I become so nervous or shaky that I do much worse than I would otherwise. And the kicker, when I was a child, my parents or teachers seemed to see me as sensitive or shy. Lauren's like, oh my God. Lauren, what's your aha about that? I'll wait for you to write. So let's count your score. Basically, if you would say yes to 12 or more of these, you would actually be considered, okay, you said being observed, yeah. So if you said yes to 12 or more of these, you would be considered a highly sensitive person. And just to clarify, just because you don't score highly sensitive, everyone has sensitivity. So my husband is not highly sensitive, but he is so sensitive to his physical environment. He's really sensitive. There's, sorry, someone called. I don't know why it popped up on my phone, but there are sensitivities he still has, but he's just not highly sensitive. And so I want to just point that out because I think some people kind of take it personally that they think they're being judged as a non-insensitive person if they're not highly sensitive, and that's just not the case. They're just not highly sensitive. And so the other thing I've really noticed as trait among sensitive people that we really have in common is, one, we tend to be perfectionists. A lot of us hate making mistakes. And from a young age, I can remember this was like painful for me learning piano. Anytime I made a mistake, it was like I felt it in my body. It just was so uncomfortable for me. And so that's a really strong ongoing trait with people. And the second thing is that we tend to really, like I said, not have a lot of huge crowds of friends, but we tend to like really deep conversations with people, like going right in there and getting to know their soul, as opposed to kind of talking a lot about like the surface stuff, like how's the weather and all that other good small chit chat stuff. And then the other thing is we tend to be really hard on ourselves. And another trait is, yes, you just said it. I was just going to say our inner critic. Like we have very active minds. I think a lot of sensitive people are just brilliant too, and we can be very analytical. We want to like figure out everything about the universe, everything that's out there, and so we really think a lot, and that can lead us to being really stuck in our heads instead of being stuck in our bodies. Yeah, exactly. A surface dweller versus a deep diver. That's really well said. Sorry. So those are just some other traits I can mention. And then the other thing is there's this really cool thing called a high sensation seeker, which I actually just discovered recently, that I'm also a high sensation seeker. And what that means is high sensation seekers really need a certain amount of stimulation, whereas highly sensitive people get easily overwhelmed by too much stimulation. So that can be a really interesting balancing act. And being highly sensitive is also called sensory processing sensitivity. All it simply means is we have a very finely tuned nervous system, and it's as though we can absorb like every experience that's happening around us, whether or not it's a sound or even an energy that we feel off of somebody else. We can be really in tune with other people and their moods, and that can be a real challenge for us too. So, and I'm just reading your comment that there's no switch off button. Yeah, that can be, that can definitely be true. So some of the people who tend to really suck up a lot of energies around them are also considered empaths. So an empath is somebody who is so sensitive to energy that they literally absorb the energy from people around them. And this can be positive and it can be negative, because the positive energy, yeah, bring that on. Like that stuff's fun to suck up, right? Because then it makes us feel really good. But on the negative side, if we are stuck in a very negative crowd of people, like Facebook is the prime case. Like Facebook can be so overwhelming with all the negative comments, especially lately, where I almost have to stay off completely and I just kind of go into my groups that I have. But being on the regular news, yeah, that's you, and it's exhausting, right? So Facebook can be totally exhausting just simply because the overwhelming energies that are coming at you. And so the positive energies feel great, but the negative stuff, it's like a dagger to the heart. And it can be a real challenge to navigate life when you are really kind of sucking up energy of the things that are happening around you. And the key is knowing that there is stuff you can control, and learning how to be really, really conscious of what you let into your life. And we'll talk about boundaries later too. But then also learning what you can't control, as we really can't control everything. So it's important to also find some tools to deal with just overwhelming situations in general, because life is life and we can't hide in a cave as much as many of us may try to do that. But learning how to be out in the world as a sensitive person can be a challenge, but it's possible. And I've really made it like my life's work to figure out how to do that over the last, 7 years or so that I've been on this journey. So I know a lot of you, since you're on this call and you've stuck with me, can probably relate to a lot of this stuff. And I've had some great comments so far from you about this. And so now the other thing that I think is so crucial is, and if I could just get a show by hitting your like or love button, how many of you grew up feeling like something about you was just broken, or that something was wrong with you, or that you were alone? How many of you felt like that? Okay, I'm getting a couple of those. And if I could hit my like button, I would be commenting on that also. And I really did. I spent most of my life trying to fix the things about me that I thought were broken, because I looked at them, I looked at all the ways that I felt like I was struggling, and I looked at those as weakness. I judged them. I thought that they were wrong. I thought that I was supposed to be living life as this like happy person all the time. And I wanted, because I knew what it felt like the highly sensitive experience of being happy is like really happy. We can be like, I can just look right now at the sunlight hitting this tree and just be like, oh, it's so beautiful. We can get really lost in these amazing feelings that we have. And it's like we want to hold on to that so much. And then when we're in the opposite, it can be really painful. And so I think a lot of us spend time trying to live in that like light side of things where we feel the happiness, we feel joy, we're in beauty, and we're feeling really connected. And for those of you who are spiritual, connected to like our higher selves, like that side feels really good. And a lot of people call that the light, like living in the light versus living in the shadow over here. And the shadow side of being sensitive is being overwhelmed, feeling drained, maybe having negative emotions like anger, sadness, grief. So that would be considered the shadow side. And if you're hearing me, hit the like button so I know that you guys are with me, because I think that there can be these two sides to sensitivity, the light side and the shadow side. And the goal with the work and where I used to live was really very much in the shadow side with like glimpses of the light, but mostly I was living in the shadow side of my sensitivity, and it felt like a curse to me. And when I kept hearing like, oh, it's a gift, I was kind of like, no, it's not, and because that wasn't my experience, and I didn't know how I could really shift things so that it could feel better for me. And so what I want you to ask yourself is, where do you find yourself living most of the time? In the light or in the shadow? And it's probably both. It's never either or all the time, but we predominantly probably find ourselves in one place or the other. And there's a great, for any of you who have read the Abraham Hicks book, Ask and It Is Given, there's a really great thing called the 22 emotions. And it asks, you know, where is your energy and what is your vibration? And it really breaks this down. And I think it's going to be backwards for you guys. Can you read that? Probably not. But what they do is, on this side of the column, they have all the positive emotions that feel really good. So that list has things like faith, trust, joy, appreciation, gratitude, passion, enthusiasm, happiness, optimism, contentment, hopefulness. So those are the real like high-end emotions, high vibe feelings and emotions. And then on the other side are more like the low vibe, not as positive, they don't feel so good emotions, starting with boredom, then moving down to frustration, disappointment, overwhelm, doubt, anger, hatred, revenge, and then all the way down to the very bottom, like the worst feeling one, is fear, grief, depression, despair, and powerlessness. And so you can see there's like quite a difference. So this side, the happy side, the feel-good side, would be the light. And then if we're living over here most of the time, that what I would also call the shadow side. And so it's pretty interesting, because the irony of all of this is that I think that most of us push that shadow side away, and we really want to either ignore it, like pretend it doesn't exist, or stuff those things down, like we don't ever want to feel those things, or we just run away somehow. Like we notice a feeling coming on and we're like, no, and we just try and like run as fast as we can in the other direction. So the irony though is that by doing this, we perpetuate it. You know, we keep it going, and what we resist persists. And so when you actually really can embrace all sides of you as like a whole being, like you are both the light, you are the shadow, you have all those feelings. You know, they list like 22, but there's more. And all of those feelings are things that we have as a part of our human experience. But if we like disown part of ourselves, then we are just basically inviting the side to just keep bothering us more than we want to. And we want to really live in the light side. So when we learn to really kind of embrace these things through some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, we can live more in that light side. And the light side is where our gifts are. It's where we feel connected to, you know, everything around us, where we are giving light out there. And I use the word light worker a lot because I identify as one, and I tend to resonate with those types of people. And a light worker is just someone simply who has so much to give, so much love in their hearts, and they just want to, like if someone would ask me when I was younger, what do you want to do in the world? And all I would say was like, I just want to help people. I want to help people. And I had no idea how to do that, but I just wanted to help people. And I think light workers are people who are here on this planet to raise the vibration of the planet, to help people, to teach people, to raise consciousness, to raise awareness, you know, and to give love. And these people, when we can't live in that, when we can't access that because we're living in the shadow, it can be very frustrating for us and can feel very disheartening that we're not really living our true purpose. Anyone here relate? Like love, anyone here feeling like that's them? I'm just curious. So I want to ask you this. So I asked you, where are you living most of the time, in the light or the shadow? Okay. The shadow has a cool ring on. You like my ring? And so the second part of this I want to ask you is, what feelings or parts of yourself do you disown? And this is just an exercise for you. You can share with me if you want to. I would love to hear if you're vulnerable enough to share that with me. But I want to, ask you to really get in touch with the parts of yourself. And I'll give you my example because I so believe in vulnerability and sharing in this space. So for me, I totally denied anger, like completely. I actually really owned it, like I mentioned, as a teenager. I owned all my shadow as a teenager. But I just ran away from it. As soon as I became a grown-up, I was like, oh, no, that's not okay anymore, because now I'm a woman and I'm supposed to be this way. I had this idea of who I was supposed to be. And so I discounted all the other stuff. And so I wouldn't let myself feel anger ever. What did Laura write? Okay, Anne's living the shadow more. And then Laura, I'm having a hard time streaming this. Oh no, I will definitely, Laura, I'll make it available later. It's gonna be posted online, so just check back later. It'll be posted, you can watch it at any time. And I'm gonna email it to everybody too. So I'm sorry you're having trouble with this. So the parts of myself that I disowned were my anger part. I disowned my pleasure. I completely disconnected from my body. And I disconnected sorry, this is personal, but it is, shut my sexuality down. Goodbye. No, I'm not supposed to receive pleasure. So I shut that down. I wasn't in touch with my anger. I ran away from any imperfection. Ooh, such a recovering perfectionist. I really felt like I needed to be on all the time. Couldn't make mistakes, needed to be the perfect mom, the perfect wife, the perfect friend. There's a lot of perfect in there, and it was really painful because I couldn't do any of those things perfectly because nobody can, right? So those are my things, and probably just some of them. I know there's more, but because they're not all coming to mind. So the question is, how do we do this? How do we move from feeling like we are living in our shadow to being in that light more frequently? And just to clarify, you're never going to be all in the light. It's just not it's not in the cards. As sensitive people, we are sensitive, and we are always going to be going between, and everyone is, not just sensitive people. Everyone kind of goes between these two things, and really deeply accepting that is part of the first phase of this, is really accepting that perhaps there is no light at the end of the tunnel that we're running towards, and when we get there, everything will be okay. That was a really hard lesson that I had to, oh yeah, Anne said perfect mom. Yeah, so I think we have to give up this idea that there's this goal, and that when we get there, our lives will be perfect, we'll be happy, we will be that perfect person that we think we can be, and it's not true. And it's so sad, and I actually went through kind of a depression when I realized this, because I had spent so much of my life trying not to be who I was, and it was really painful for me to really deeply accept this. But the acceptance piece was so important, because that's what got me to the other side of actually accepting myself and then taking action to feel like I could take care of myself in a deeper way and truly love myself. I didn't love myself for a long time. I didn't think I was worthy of things. I think that's why I didn't make friends, honestly, is because I did not feel worthy of other friendships and other women. I'm getting teary talking about this because it sucks to feel that way. Whew, vulnerable moment, highly sensitive. So the question is, how do we do this, right? And, oh, hey, Mary Beth, watched Bad Moms too. Yes, watching Bad Moms, that's such a totally good movie. Their goal is to be a bad mom. And as a coach, actually, for perfectionists, one of the tools that we give is teaching people to be bad. If you're so used to doing the right thing all the time, and you're that person who's oh no, I have to be this and I have to be that. Trying to be bad, ooh, that's a good one. So how do we do this? So the key to really moving forward and owning your shadow, but also living more in your light, is through self-care. And there are a lot of tools around this. And the key is self-care. It's working on acceptance around yourself, around others, around your feelings, kind of accepting all of it, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly, and the hairy. I don't know why I wanted to say hairy too. So self-care, self-acceptance, and then self-love. And they're all combined. But there are tools to go into, there are tools you can implement in your life that really make this more possible. And so I'm going to kind of jump around. I have these notes here. But when I talk about tools, this kind of fall into three categories. There's tools of like body care, like taking care of your body, just basic, making sure you move your body, making sure you eat pretty well, you get enough sleep, things that literally take care of your body because you have a sensitive body and that body needs to be cared for. And that's the first thing I started with because that was the one that started failing me. My health started to really suffer. So for me, that's the first thing I turned my attention to. Let me see, Veronique. Hi, Veronique. Yes, we can start to decide to be fearless and not worry so much about failing. Yeah, that's a great comment. So when I talk about self-care, the body is really one of the things we can focus on, and getting, just getting your vessel taken care of, because when you're feeling like when you're not getting enough sleep, you're going to be cranky and exhausted. I mean, these are really kind of the simple no-brainers. Taking care of your body really is going to help you lift your vibration, lift your energy in a big way. But then there's one of my favorite ones is the mind. The mindset is tremendous because not only have we developed over time, all of us have limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves. My limiting belief was that I was broken. I'm allergic to life. I feel cursed. I had such a negative self-identity about who I was. I had some positive identities. Like I knew I was a great mom out of the gate. I just did. I knew that I was good at certain things. Like I knew that there were positive identities, but I had some very negative identities that I had built up for myself around being sensitive or around a lot of this stuff. And this is the core work, is shifting your mindset into a more positive frame of mind and really building awareness around our thoughts. And I noticed that when I started doing this, I realized actually how many of my thoughts were of the negative variety. How many of mine were kind of keeping me in that like column of just the low vibe feelings. And when I really started becoming aware of my thoughts through mindfulness, through different things that I was doing, that is such a huge tool. And there are tools, and I offer these are going to be offered in a group program I have. I do this work with my clients, so I can't go into every tool because there's a lot of them right now, but I'm going to go over the kind of the overarching themes behind these tools. So working on your mindset and creating more positivity through your thought patterns is tremendous. And that was honestly where I made my biggest transformation. And then the third area is our soul. And I talk about nourishing, like when we talk about the body, and I used to be a health coach, and I'm still a health coach, but I'm really kind of a life and health coach. I'm a soul coach. I don't know. I like that term. But when we feed our body, we talk about feeding it good foods, right? And then our body responds and it likes it. And when we do the same thing with our soul, like what are we feeding our soul? Are we feeding our soul? And that's where our pleasure kicks in. Are we doing things that make us feel good? Are we doing things that make us happy? Or are we spending too much time doing things that make us miserable? And most of us are doing things that make us miserable way more than we really need to be doing those things. So, it comes down to what we're feeding our body, what we're feeding our mind, and what we're feeding our soul, and really finding the formula that kind of works for us and limiting the things that are, putting poison into us. So we can really feed our minds a lot of poison. Like Facebook right now for me is kind of a poison, unfortunately. Like the news feed is feeding me negativity. Newspapers, I used to feed myself negativity by honestly incessantly reading the news. When my son was born, I was in like a bad place anyway, because I was so sensitive, but my anxiety was through the roof, and all I kept doing was reading the newspaper about bird flu, and I just like created this perfect human. I loved him so much. Like I didn't know how much I could love anything. And then I had my son, and then all of a sudden bird flu is coming, and I was like, oh my God, bird flu. Oh my God, what do I have to do? And so I was like vigilantly reading the newspaper about bird flu just to make sure we're going to be okay. And I was terrified. And one day I realized that all I was doing was like feeding this mania, like feeding my anxiety. And so that's a really good example of how we feed ourselves negativity that then keeps us spiraling down into that, place where we don't want to be. And so all of this is really about like balancing and managing how we are feeding ourselves. And I talk a lot about this like energy management, because as sensitive people, we lose energy. We get really drained pretty easily because we get drained by like all the sensitive stuff in the environment around us. We get drained by people's moods and their energy. We get drained by being too busy. We get drained by doing too many things at once. Like there's a lot of stuff that can make us feel drained. And can I get some likes out there? Anyone else feel like that's true? Kids are draining. Like my husband is totally draining. There's so much that can drain us. So yay, some likes. People resonate. Yeah, so life can be really draining, and it's really important to learn what also fills us up. So you need awareness on kind of both sides there. What drains you and what fills you up, okay? And learning how to regularly, as part of a daily practice, and your day is like a full day, right? So just doing something positive in the morning is probably going to wear off by like midday, and it's not going to sometimes get you through the entire day. So learning how to pepper your day with some energy, like energy lifting experiences, is really important, because we want to learn how to generate as much energy as we lose. And I know for me, before I knew what this whole highly sensitive thing was, I used to try to mirror myself. Like I would watch other people, and we were very observant, by the way, so we kind of noticed everything. And I would wonder, like, God, okay, so my friend Carol, she sleeps like 5 hours a night. She runs every morning. She's a lawyer, so she shows up every day to this. Then she does this. So, I was using someone who is not highly sensitive as my model of how I'm supposed to be in the world. And so I was trying to live my life in a non-sensitive way, and it was really not working for me. Things were just breaking down left and right. And so when I finally really understood my framework of what I needed, I was able to then take action and do these things and implement these tools. And as soon as I started really focusing on like waking up every morning and realizing that like it is my job to raise my energy level today, and to find ways to do it throughout the day. And as soon as I started living that way, and there was a huge shift in my life, and I was honoring myself as a sensitive person. And as soon as I got that going, that was when I was able to actually show up as myself, and I was able to find my voice and feel like I didn't have this cycle of like putting myself out in the world, and then I would get overwhelmed and drained, and then I would crash and burn and have to hide. And so it was very frustrating. I felt like I could never get a career going. Like a career for me has been the most frustrating part of all of this, because I feel like I just could not figure that out. I didn't know how to do it because I always felt like I was in meltdown mode. And so this was really frustrating for me. And one of the things I want to talk a little bit about raising our vibration, because as sensitive people, let's see this. So we know how we feel how do we feel when there's negativity around us, right? We suck it up and we take it in, and we feel even worse, right? So it's doubly important for us to make sure that we monitor what we are putting out there. Because if we are putting out more negativity, then everyone is going to be down in kind of this negative place. So as sensitive people, what do? We need to really monitor, like be really conscious of what we're letting in, because if we let in more positivity, then we have the ability to put more positivity out into the world. And that means that we are, as spiritual people, again, like raising the consciousness, we're raising the vibe of everyone around us. So it's really important that we, take in as much positivity as we can, but that we also really monitor what we're putting out there. And I am the first to admit that I used to put the negative stuff out there a lot. I've really done a much better job at not doing it as much. Again, I'm not perfect in any of these things, but I have worked really hard to kind of balance, tip my balance. But I was one of those people, you'd ask me, how are you? And I'd say like, I'm good, and for some reason I felt like I needed to insert something that was not working for me. I don't know why, I had a really hard time owning my happiness. And when I realized I was doing this, I was like, why do I feel like I need to share that negative thing? Because there's like 8 positive things I could have shared instead. So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, is thinking about what we're also putting out there. And so I'm getting distracted by the comments. Lauren said, being in nature helps boost my energy. Yes. So let's talk a little bit more about what our energy boosters are, because I want you to walk away with something that you okay, I get this, and this is what I can add into my life more. And so I wrote a blog post a while ago about this, but working on so things that will boost your mood. Okay, let's talk about that, and talk about like, let's talk about the soul and the mind, because I think that we know more or less what we're supposed to do around the body, pretty much. We don't always do it. But with the mind and the soul, let's talk about what boosts those in terms of our energy. So Lauren said being out in nature. Yes, that is such an important practice. Letting the sun shine on our face, putting our feet on the earth, being around a friend who feeds you, you know, someone, like one of those conversations where you just feel so connected and you feel energized. Like for me, this actually gives me energy to talk to you guys. So this is an energy boosting activity. Cuddling with my dog, that boosts my energy. Dancing. Yeah, Sherelle, dancing and music. Woohoo, right? That is such a huge energy boost. And I know this is going to be crazy, but I don't care. Like shaking things out of your body. Like what I mentioned, we can really get stuck in our heads a lot of the time. And when we're stuck in our heads, no one benefits. We try and think our way out of this stuff a lot. All we need to do is get into our body. So movement practice becomes totally important. And one thing I finally realized is that I used to think like, okay, well, to do that, I have to join a gym and I have to go and I have to work out, or I have to spend like all this time. No, I think that what you have to do is, like for me with the music, I will just put on a song and just move. Like I'll just move in my chair for a minute and I move something into my body, and it can take a song to kind of get that energy back in. So if you're at work, you can go into your bathroom stall and do that. So it's learning what little things you can do in your day that aren't going to take massive amounts of time. Meditation is one. I have, what else we have? We have books that inspire you. Yes, inspirational books. And then, all right, dance parties in the car and at home. Yes. So feeding yourself inspiration, feeding yourself positivity. Like I love Abraham Hicks, and in the morning I will often watch a video of theirs that really inspires me and lifts my energy and kind of reminds me like, right, okay. And it's just a good reminder. So reading great material, finding blogs that are inspiring, YouTube videos. There are so many people out there doing good, like follow them. And so as soon as you kind of start cataloging these things for yourself, even for me, like I didn't used to do this, but now I have like my shower ritual. And when I get out, I like bought this oil that smells really good, and I rub it on my arms, and I've started wearing, like, I put it on before this call because it smells really good. And smells can be an incredible energy booster. Like essential oils, you know, rub something in your hands and you just carry that smell. So these are the types of things that can really boost your mood. Gratitude is an amazing one. Focusing on what is working in your life, focusing on where you are blessed, focusing on what, and I've become so good at this, like even just being grateful that you can walk, you know, grateful that you can breathe air, grateful that the sun is shining, that you have clothes on your back, food in your fridge, friends to talk to, anything out there, grateful that you're on this call. Like I'm so grateful you're on this call with me. The Abraham Hicks talks about a rampage of gratitude. Like those are the things that really can lift our energy up. And then yeah, she said a lavender diffuser, absolutely. Just to surround yourself with things that make you feel really good, that delight your senses, but that also delight your body, delight your mind, delight your soul. And so these are the kinds of tools that I really want to teach more women how to get in touch with. And so the other side of this, and I'll get back to that in a minute, is really learning what drains you. And this can be hard because the answer is probably like everything, right? And so I'm grateful for you too, Veronique. So I wanted to talk about, yes, what drains you, okay? There's a great list, and I want this to be your homework, is to write a list of everything you are tolerating in your life right now. So what are you tolerating in your life? And this is such a great tool because you will realize that you are probably giving your energy out to a bunch of things you might be able to say no to. And I knew we would talk about boundaries at some point because boundaries come up a lot around self-care and sensitivity. And it is our job to protect our sensitivity, like to protect our own self. That is our divine purpose in life, is to really like learn how to protect ourselves in a way that is going to let us show up as our greatest self. And that is not easy to do, okay? Especially sensitive people are like the biggest givers in the world. And that's like one of the best qualities about us, but we give to the point where it hurts us. And if we are doing that, we need to figure out where we're doing that, and we need to learn how to lovingly say no to that thing. And this can be hard. And this is why I actually practice this a lot with people. And I personally will admit I don't always succeed. You know, there are some times where I just know that I'm giving it but I do it anyway. But the point is, I am so much better than I used to be. I used to just say yes to everything. Yes, 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 I'll volunteer for that, and I'll do this, and yes, I'll do this, and yes, I'll do that. And I learned how to be selfish, but in a really good way. And being selfish in a good way is like the best thing ever, but it takes practice. And so I want you to make your list. Just the simple starting point is to make a list of everything you're tolerating in your life. And I know we don't have time now because it may take you a while, but just reread the list after you write it and just find what the easiest no is. What's the easiest thing for you to take off your calendar? Because we truly need to honor the fact that we, as sensitive people, need a lot of downtime. We just do. If we are living and just giving everything out all the time, we are going to be depleted like crazy. And so just learning how to take these baby steps of saying no to something that could be pretty easy for you to say no to, just start there for now. And then later, just you'll have your list, like your energy giving list and your energy draining list. And these are really good tools for you to start out with. So those are the two things that I really hope you leave here with using. And we'll do later and follow up with me and let me know if you did it. This video is going to be live for a while, so you can come back later and you can just comment down and let me know if you've done it. I'll come and I'll check it back. So we're going to wrap up, and I want to ask if anyone on the call now has any questions for me to answer. And while you guys type, I'm just going to tell you quickly about two things that I'm really excited about. So the first is, first thing, I want to be 100% honest with you. Like, I know that I come off as happy very easily because I am. Like right now in this moment, I feel really energized. I feel like so excited to be with you on this call. And so you're reading that energy. Like, that's a very authentic energy. But guess where I was this morning? I was in tears. I was really struggling with self-doubt. I was having like just this moment where I was like, oh, it was a really painful moment. I was just struggling and I was crying about something. And I remember thinking like, how am I going to get it together to show up for my call today? Like, what am I going to do? And so I wanted to share that with you mostly because I think that it's important that we really share our vulnerabilities and share where we struggle. Like, we don't, and a lot of us don't let us feel things. Like before, the old Courtney would have been having these feelings and these thoughts, and I would have ignored it. I would have pushed it away. I would have like muscled through my day, and I probably would have felt not great on this call today. But I used one of my tools, and one of these tools, and I can't explain it now because it's kind of too long, but what it did was it let me release it. Like, I wasn't even crying before I started, and what I did was I called my friend and we used one of our little techniques together, and I called her, and while I was talking, all of a sudden, like, I had a release. I had a release of the emotion. I was able to cry, and I left the call like I had moved it through my body. Like, it just left me. And I think that a lot of us struggle with moving our energy and letting it just leave. That's why we hold on to stuff, and then it takes form of like negative behavior. So because we don't want to feel like, before I hated crying, like hated it. I thought it was a weakness. I didn't want to do it. And so before, I would have just been like, no. And I probably would have had something from the fridge, right? I would have done something else to get the feeling moving through me, or like, so that I wouldn't feel it, or I would have numbed myself out. So I share this because it's really important to use some of these tools to get that energy moving through your system so that it doesn't like stay stuck in us. Because I think as sensitive people, we are like, we suck up energy and we accumulate things, and we need to learn how to release it. We need to move things through our body. We need to move things through tears, through movement, through anger, through just letting these things move through us is so important. And I'm sharing this with you because I called my friend, and it's so important to create like a sisterhood. And part of the reason I want to do this work is that I want to create sisterhood for sensitive women. I think we really need it. I think we're starved for it. And so the first thing I want to invite you to is a free Facebook event next week I'm having, and it's called the Empowered Sensitive Sisterhood Facebook Challenge. And it's a free 5-day event. And if you want to join me, I hope you do, because it's free, and I want to create this sisterhood with us so that we can learn to lean on each other, and we learn so much from each other. And the biggest breakthroughs I've made in my life, the biggest moments where I've had like tremendous growth, tremendous learning, tremendous everything, has been with a group of women who are going through the same thing with me at the same time, because I've been able to develop those relationships. You learn from what others are doing, you don't feel alone anymore, and you lean on each other, and we need each other. So the first opportunity I have is this free Facebook group. So I hope you'll join me. There's actually, I'm going to send an email to my list about it. So if you want information, please sign up for my newsletter. You can go to thehighlysensitivebadass.com. Yay, Lauren! I hope you join. So go to thehighlysensitivebadass.com just to make sure you're on my newsletter, and that automatically downloads my ebook. So just sign up for the ebook. You'll be on my newsletter, and I'm going to send out an email tomorrow probably, or maybe today, about the Facebook group with all the details, how to join and everything. So I'm so excited. I hope you guys will join me. And then the second thing is, this is a coaching program, and it's called Sensitive Badass Academy. And I'm so excited about this because it's a 4-month program, and we're going to be doing this kind of thing, like both in the Facebook group and in my academy. It's going to be a lot of live learning, and we're going to go over a bunch of modules, and we're going to talk about things like cultivating more joy and positivity, acceptance and mindfulness, and more grounding techniques, you know, how to move energy through your body so it doesn't get stuck and stagnant, how to honor our feelings and let those move. We're going to talk about setting boundaries and learning to say no to things and saying yes to yourself. Also learning how to create your super badass identity, right? Like my identity used to be, I'm a hot mess, and I changed that to, I'm a sensitive badass. And so this is the kind of thing that I love working on with people. And then the other things we'll be working on are cultivating intuition and more pleasure in your life, and practicing the art of receiving and allowing, and looking at the feminine versus the, okay, someone else is having an issue. I'm sorry, Joy. It will be available. We're going to talk about the art of receiving and allowing, because women are the worst receivers. We are so bad at receiving, and it's so sad. And so we need to learn to receive from ourselves and from others. And this is more of a feminine quality. So we're going to learn about like moving things into the more feminine side versus the masculine, and also talking about your physical environment, and like where is your physical environment draining you? Where can you like give that an upgrade? And then also lifestyle design, how to create your life to be in more harmony with who you are. Okay, this is where the law of attraction comes in, and I love the law of attraction. I'm a big geek, so that's the other one. And so that is Sensitive Badass Academy, and there's more information on my website, and we start February 20th. So I'm really excited. I hope you'll join me for at least one of those things. And in the meantime, let me just see if I can, oh yay, Joyce said she loves the Facebook challenge. Yay! Okay, good. So I'm just gonna scroll. Whoop, sorry, you're seeing my finger up on the thing. Anyone have questions? Anyone? Okay. If not, you can always ask them later. Just post down in the comment section later. And so, did I forget anything? I don't think I did. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me on this call today, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you did, will you like thumbs up or hit the love button? I hope you guys got something out of today, and thank you. And if you need anything, just comment below later. And thank you, Lauren. I appreciate it. And I would love to hear what you got out of this too. So if you can share any aha you had, any awareness that you are left with. Oh, Sherelle, handling kids who are sensitive. Amen, right? And as a sensitive mom, it can be hard to handle sensitive kids. Yes, we can talk about that in the Facebook group. Why don't you join, and we'll have like a little session on that. We'll talk about that more. So if you want to, yeah, you're welcome, Veronique. Okay, so follow up with me by commenting later. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really grateful for you, and I hope you have a really wonderful day. Mwah! Bye.